So with keeping with the theme of solving equations, we are now on solving two-step equations. So again, you're going to take these notes on a blank sheet of paper. I want you to make sure you're keeping all of your solving equations notes together. So last week we took notes on adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing. This week we're going to continue taking notes. Today our title is Solving Two-Step Equations. Again, I'm going to say anything I highlight is what you should be writing down, or anything I'm writing down with the little marker on here. The examples that I do with you today are going to be on assignment number 37. So once you're done with your notes and one of us hands you assignment 37, you might want to look for these problems as you're doing that worksheet. The you tries in this video are not going to be a part of the worksheet. So just the examples that we do for you are on the worksheet, and then the you tries are not. So let's get started. So our first equation, example 1, is 3n plus 8 equals 20. So we want to remember with solving two-step equations that we want to do adding and subtracting first, then we're going to do multiplying and dividing. So it's kind of the reverse order of operations, because remember in order of operations we do multiplying and dividing, then adding and subtracting. Since we're undoing things, that we're still trying to isolate the variable, we're going to do adding and subtracting first, then either multiplying or dividing. So we want to get this n alone. That's our final goal, to get the n all by itself, isolate the variable. First thing we're going to do is minus 8. If we do it to this side, we know we have to do it to this side. So we're going to minus 8, minus 8. We just bring down the 3n. And that's going to equal, look at here, that just equals 0. And we do 20 minus 8, which equals 12. Now, so that was our first step, right? And what did we do? We just subtracted 8 from both sides. This is now our second step down here. And now we're just going to divide both sides by 3, because again, we're trying to get that variable all by itself. And we know 12 divided by 3 is 4. And that equals, this is that big giant 1 that we talk about, n equals 4. Now again, in order to check this off, we go over here, we do 3 times 4 plus 8. Does that equal 20? And yeah, it does, because this is 12 plus 8. And remember, order of operations, now we do multiplication first. Does that equal 20? Yes, it does. 20 equals 20. I'm not going to check every single one, but if we wanted to, this is how you would do that. You're just substituting 4 in for n in our original equation up here. All right, here's our second example. And again, you are looking, once you get your worksheet, you're going to be looking for these examples on your worksheet. So again, we do addition and subtraction first, addition or subtraction first, then we're going to do multiplying or dividing. So for this one, since it's a negative 23, we're going to add 23 to both sides. Add 23 to both sides. This just cancels out. A negative 15 plus 23, positive 23, is going to give us a positive 8. And over here, all we have left is negative 8t. Then what we want to do is divide both sides by our negative 8, because again, we're trying to get that t variable alone. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. So over here, all we have left is t. 8 divided by negative 8 gives us a negative 1, so t equals negative 1 in this case. All right, our third example is w over negative 5 plus 17 equals negative 3. This one's a little bit different because we have our division now, whereas in the previous example we had multiplication. We now have division. So again, we're still just trying to get this w all alone. But here we go. So we want to isolate the w variable. First thing we want to do is either add or subtract, and in this case we're going to subtract the 17. If we do it to this side, remember we have to do it to this side because we have an equal sign right here. So we get positive 17 plus negative 17, that cancels out. Over here, negative 3 plus a negative 17 is going to give us negative 20. And what do we have left over here? We just have w over negative 5. Well, now we have another one-step equation. To undo division, we want to multiply both sides by negative 5. So remember these, just make that big giant 1. W equals negative 20 times negative 5, which is going to give us a positive 100 because negative times a negative is a positive. So in this case, W equals 100. And again, like I said, I'm not going to check them all, but I'll do this one. If we put 100 in for W, substitute it in, we would get, this is our check, 100 divided by negative 5 plus 17. Does that equal negative 3? Well, 100 divided by negative 5 is going to give us a negative 20 plus 17. Yes, does equal negative 3. So we're good. This checks out. Okay, so I've written example 4 down here, and I just wanted to point out before I solve it out the difference between these two. So we're still adding, but notice how in example 3, our negative was the negative 5. In example 4, our negative is the negative x. So what we want to do is just make sure that it doesn't matter where that negative is. Either way, this fraction is going to be a negative fraction. So this, if we wanted to relocate it, this negative, we could basically just say, oh, you know what, this is just negative w over 5, and you know what, this is just negative x over 3. It doesn't really matter where the negative is, as long as you know that that fraction is negative. So now let's go ahead and solve example 4. And what we're going to do first is addition or subtraction. Remember, we're still just trying to isolate this variable, get it all by itself. So let's subtract 4 from both sides. On this side, we get 20 minus 4, which is 16. That equals, that cancels out. And again, we have that negative x over 3. Now, we're going to multiply both sides by our denominator, right? Because we want to undo division here. Well, instead of multiplying it by 3, we're going to multiply it by negative 3, so we get rid of this negative sign on this side. So that's why I said it doesn't really matter where this negative sign is. If it's up here or down here, we just need to get rid of it. So we multiply this side by negative 3, and we multiply this side by negative 3. So over here, we just cancel out these 3's. We get x equals a positive 16 times a negative 3, which is going to give us a negative 48. So that is your final answer. Okay, here's your first U try. A is just like example 1, B is just like example 2, C is just like example 3, and D is just like example 4. So use those examples to solve these problems out. Pause here and see if you can get the correct answers. All right, here's your answers for these. A is n equals 3, B is t equals negative 3, C is w equals 100, and D is x equals negative 48. If you didn't get any of these right, please go back and watch the video. I'm going to do 2 more examples, so these will be from page 44 of your worksheet today. So all of the previous ones were on page 43. The next 2 will be from page 44. All right, so we're now on example 5. And again, this is number 3 on the worksheet, page 44. Once you get it, you can just copy these answers down or try and work them out and see if you can get them right. But either way, we're still on 2-step equations. We want to isolate our x. What we do is we add 1 to both sides. This cancels out. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 equals x over 4. Now we have a whole new equation. Now these are just like our one-step equations that we did last week. What do we want to do? We want to multiply both sides by 4 because we want to undo this division. That cancels out. We get x equals 8 times 4, which we know is 32. All right, so number 5 down here, or excuse me, number 6, is number 10 on your worksheet. Once you get it, you can just go ahead, like I said before, fill these in or just see if you can get them correct. So now we're looking at something that's a little bit of a different order. We're used to our variable being here. with multiplication or division, and then our number being here with addition or subtraction. Well, now we have this positive 20 minus a k over 15 equals 17. Since this is positive 20, we want to take it away from this side. We're still trying to isolate our variable k here. So we want to take it away from this side. Since we took it away from this side, we have to take it away from this side. So this ends up canceling out, and we get negative k, don't forget this negative sign, over 15 equals 17 minus 20, which is negative 3. Now, this is another one-step equation. Remember what I told you about the negative sign? It doesn't matter where it is, but we want to know that this whole fraction here means negative. So we want to multiply both sides by this negative 15 because we want to get rid of it. Multiply this side by this negative 15. So over here, the two negative 15s cancel out, and we're left with k. And what we have over here is negative 3 times negative 15, which is going to give us a positive 45. Remember, negative times a negative is a positive. So k equals 45. I just want to make a little side note. And that being, let's say once we get to this stage, so we subtracted our 20 from each side, and now we're to this stage. If we just wanted to multiply by our 15 to both sides, let's say we just multiply by our 15 to both sides, we would get, this would still cancel out, but over here what we have left is negative k equals negative 3 times a positive 15, and we would get negative 45. Well, remember, I think last week I said we don't want a negative variable. So what we would do is switch this sign. And we're used to that. We're used to switching signs. This would become a positive. Since we switched this sign, again, we have to switch this sign. So our final answer would still end up being k is equal to 45. So either way you do it, you get the same answer. So just make sure you know that. All right, so now here are the two you try examples. Go ahead and pause here. Remember, E is just going to be just like example number 5, and F is going to be just like example number 6. So pause here and see if you can get them. All right, so for E, you should have gotten X is 50, and for F, you should have gotten K is equal to 132. Again, you should have subtracted 30 from both sides. I'm just going to work this one out because I know it's a little bit more difficult. So you get negative k over 12 is equal to 19 minus 30 is negative 11. You multiply both sides by either negative 12 or 12. In this case, I like negative 12. Multiply both sides by negative 12. The negative 12 cancels out, so you get positive k equals negative 11 times negative 12, which is going to give you a positive 132. All right, so go ahead and start your assignment, and remember all of the examples that we did together are somewhere on your assignment, either on page 44 or on page 43.